Welcome back to ABG Investor Day. My name is Adrian Gilani, and I am an equity research analyst here at ABG. Up next, we have a presentation with Copperstone Resources, and with me today, I have CEO Anna Tyni, as well as Head of Business Development, Michael Mattsson. And with that being said, I will hand it over to you, Michael and Anna, for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. My name is Michael Mattsson. I'm representing Copperstone Resources AB here today, a mineral exploration company moving into within transit to become one of the Northern Europe's largest copper miners. We can switch slide, actually 2 slides. Thank you. If we start with the board of directors, we have our chairman, Jörgen Olsson, part of Joheco AB, the main owner of this company. And he has brought with him a huge track record within small cap growth and growing small companies. For instance, the Hoist Finance, he grew from almost nothing to 1,700 employees in 11 countries, and also bringing him with fantastic company culture and also growth, obviously, with the revenues and profitability. And myself, Michael, then I've been here for 6 years. I started off in RBC for the first 4 or 5 years, and now Viscaria full time, you could say, for the last couple of years. And then we have Sven-Erik Bucht, the former Minister of Foreign Rural Affairs in the Swedish government, and also Mayor of Haparanda, our mutual hometown on the border to Finland for 6 years. And then we have Gregory Hall, a mining engineer from Australia, with us in the board, adding a very good industrial competence. Jane Lundgren Eriksson, more than 20 years at Swedish Export Credit Corporation, responsible for more than 200 billion Swedish kronor in debt, both senior debt as well as working capital for the industrial sector. And Lars Seitz, finally 30 years within the financial industry, SEB AP Fund, the second AP Fund, and currently at the board of Handelsbanken Fonder, Handelsbanken Funds. You can take next slide, please. And then moving on to the market. What we are expecting everyone here right now is unprecedented, actually, in the copper market. You could compare it actually to the industrialization of the West, the USA or Europe, or most recently China and India. It's a paradigm shift, going from the fossil based economy to the sort of battery-led electricity, and there will not be no decarbonization of the society without copper. So if we look at, for instance, the electrical vehicle sector, this is definitely only one segment within the copper demand. You can see a 50 times growth in here, because every electric car needs approximately 4 times more copper than a regular normal car combustion engine, and then 12 to 13 times the number of units within some 10 years. So it's a remarkable growth. We can take the next slide, please. And this picture you can see here as well, and Goldman Sachs calls this copper is the new oil, dated April this year. And they can foresee a gap of almost 8 million or above 8 million tons of copper within 10 years' time. So actually the supply side is struggling, with older mines needing a lot of capex just to keep their production levels, and the grades are deteriorating. And on the other hand, we have the copper demand following GDP, and maybe even a bit more than that because of the paradigm shift I just mentioned. So it's just a perfect storm. It could be a perfect storm here with our window of opportunity for the Viscaria mine. We can take the next slide, please. And this is, of course, reflected also in the projections of the copper price. We have global banks believing in 15 or even 20,000 dollar ton for copper, as opposed to 9,500 or 9,400 yesterday. So I mean, it's reflecting a really tight supply and increasing demand from the paradigm shift. We can take the next slide, please. And then if we look at the broader picture, in case Viscaria is up and running, we have previously talked about 22 to 25,000 tons of copper each year. But actually we have now in our Q2 report in August mentioned an increased ambition. So this is actually still there, not decided obviously, because of all the side effects with capex and opex and what have you. But still, this is feasible, we believe, and 30,000 tons per year would be 1/3 of Aitik, which is Sweden's largest copper mine, producing 90% of Sweden's copper, or 91% of Swedish copper, because that output is 100,000 tons. So Viscaria could actually produce in a best case, or in a steady state production case, 23% of the future volumes of Swedish copper. Still limited in a global scale. You can see here Escondida way to the left here with 6% of the world's production, state-owned Codelco there in Chile. The next slide, please. Here we come now to Copperstone in a nutshell. Anna will obviously come back to Viscaria and the mine plan here. Most significant copper project with 3 exploitation concessions here. The latest one actually approved by the Swedish government as late as this July, this summer. So which was fantastic news for our project, because now we have economies of scale to include all of these 3 exploitation concessions within the border of the mine plan, and the environmental permits has been adjusted to also include that. Or I mean, now it's confirmed that we will go for all of these 3. So we see very positive on both the output of copper as well as the cash cost potentially decreased. And then we have this superb infrastructure, obviously, with the railroad down to Luleå, E10 is down to Luleå and up to Narvik, and the Malmbanan, the railroad as well to Narvik Harbor. And excess at this point in time, we have an excess of green hydropower. RBC I will actually come back to, so let me revert to that after Anna has come in here. It's a multi-metal resource basket over there, which actually with this asset in our pocket, we were able to acquire the complete Viscaria project a few years ago from Sandstone. And then we have a small deposit concession exploitation concession in Bergslagen, central Sweden. It's a high grade but limited zinc and silver deposit. Next slide, please. If we look at now, we are back at Viscaria because it's the closest one to the mine. It has been core drilled 363,000 meters. I mean, it's incredibly much. And obviously, the orange bar you can see here is primarily from the production Outokumpu. So of course we don't have sort of access to all those cores and the void in the underground. Obviously, we cannot access all this data, but we have profound insights now of this project, and we confirm that it's a brownfield potential within 1 square kilometer. And you should also remember that we have 17 a long strike along the geological trend up northeast, actually 17 kilometers of exploration permits that we are also exploring alongside, because if we get the mine in place, we can have tracking distance in the future for further ore up north and also southways. And core drillings are actually very exciting stage right now. We are drilling with 2 rigs in the so-called underexplored B zone, because the B zone was lower grade, and it has always been confirmed, or actually that has been the hypothesis, that it's lower grade than A and D. This is also why then LKAB and Outokumpu did not invest so much money there, because they required some 2% cutoff at those time to have a profitable mine. So this is really, it's not virgin territory. We have resources in the B zone, but we see a lot of potential in here to increase, and also include in the mine plan within concession territory. We can have the next slide, please. But all of these figures and drillings, etc., it's not coming anywhere unless we have an environmental permit. So this is the stage we are right now. We are working alongside with our head of environmental, Anders Lundqvist. We have some 20 to even 30 consultants out in the field right now, measuring water, tailings, reindeer herder analysis, Nature 2000, and you name it actually. And we will hand it in the upcoming winter here, as said. And after that, the court will sort of look at all these papers. If it's 6,000 or 8,000 pages, I don't really know at this stage. They will look at it. Is it complete? No, maybe they have to come back for us for a further round. And then finally, they will kungöra this court proclamation. And after that, we will go through written and oral preparation from both the authorities as well as stakeholders. And then after that, when everyone has sort of said what they would like to say in this, the court will have a main hearing at the field, at the site here for 2 days, or it can be longer, maybe 3, 4, 5 days even. And then correspondence back and forth with the authorities, and finally a ruling, which could be appealed or not, and then legal force. And in case we have an award of the environmental permit process, environmental permit, that will come together with some conditions, for instance, on noise or dust or any type of thing like this. So with that, I would like to hand over to our CEO, Anna Tyni.
Thank you, Michael. Next slide, please. This is our team today. We are continuously to grow, and we are today about 24 employees in Kiruna. And this is mostly on the geology side. We have a lot of people, and we have also engineers and environmental people in the project. This is a management team. It consists of Jörgen Olsson, as Michael also had introduced. He is our hardworking executive chairman. And me, myself, Anna Tyni, born and raised in Kiruna. I am CEO for the company from the 1st of May. And I joined Copperstone in October last year as site manager. And we also have our true nature lover, Anders Lundqvist, which is our head of environmental sustainability. And we have also Glenn Nilsson as mining manager. He can drive all the vehicles possible that you can imagine. And we have our chief geologist, Marcello Imana, which is our very excellent geologist at the project right now. And last but not least, Michael Mattsson, who is the person to thank for the acquisitions of Viscaria, actually. Next slide, please. This is a view of the Viscaria area. You can see in the red line, we have the land lease of area Viscaria. And close to us, we have our next neighbor, which is LKB, industrial area in the green lines. It's a very big area. You can see that we are located very close to Kiruna city. It's approximately 3 kilometers west-north of Kiruna. You can see Kiruna at the right in the picture. And you can also see the excellent infrastructure that we have. The railway in the blue line, and the orange line is the European Road 10. And we also have a very good facility for electrical power grid in the area. Also, a good thing for us is that the land use has already been decided. The mineral resource is classified as natural interest. And in Kiruna, we have a lot of know-how in mining because Kiruna is an old mining town. We have a social acceptance also for starting mines in Kiruna. Next slide, please. We have a growing deposit since Outokumpu shut down. We have increased the reserves and resources from 3 to 59 million tons of copper-bearing ore. And the grade of copper in the ore is on average 1.2% copper. And from that, we are the theoretical amount of copper that we can get out from the 59 million tons is 727 kilotons of pure copper. And we also have a byproduct that is magnetite, and we are planning for extracting about 30 million tons with an iron content of the magnetite after concentration of 66% iron. Yeah, next slide, please. This is a layout of the planned infrastructure on site. We're planning for both open pit and underground in all the three ore zones. You can see the area of open pit A zone, open pit B zone, and open pit D zone. And the plan is to go underground also when the mine is up and running. We have actually, I didn't mention it on the last slide, but we have actually about 60 kilometers of infrastructure in the underground that we are going to use to get to go in underground in the D zone in the future. And the concentrating plant will be placed in the industrial area. You can see in the middle of this picture. And it's actually the same place that Outokumpu had their concentrating plant before. And the tailing pond will be separated from the existing tailing pond. And you can also see that the waste dumps planned for both in north and south. Yes, next slide. This is an idea sketch of the concentrating plant. The ore will be fed into the crusher, and then it undergoes milling and flotation for copper. And in the same process, we are going to concentrate the magnetite also in a separate process. And we are planning to do that with low intense magnetic separation in 2 steps. And after the concentration of both copper and magnetite, we will dewater the slurry down to a water content of about 7%. And then we will ship it out to customer. Thank you. Now I hand over to Michael again.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Anna. I guess this is the last slide actually before the Q&A session. Anyway, without RBC Project, no Viscaria. So I would like to elaborate a bit on this one. It's a 50-year exploration history here at the southern RBC Glommersträsk, and in total 46 kilometers of exploration drilling. First by Boliden in the 70s, and then Lundin Mining 22 kilometers or something like this, and Copperstone now we have drilled second most here, 12 to 13,000 meters. So it's a large scale potential in the northern region here, Granliden. We have an 150 to 210 million ton exploration target, and this could be then related to the 59 million tons we have in Viscaria. Obviously much higher grade in Viscaria, but here in Arvidsjaur we also have some gold, silver and zinc as contributors. So it's a very, very interesting project. And currently we are focusing on the EVA gold actually, because the gold price has risen even more than the copper price since the 90s and the discovery of EVA deposit by Lundin Mining. So this is where we will go now with Viscaria on track. We are back in Arvidsjaur to unlock the mystery that hasn't been unlocked for the latest 50 years. And I would say not the dream case here, but anyway, what we really are looking for is potential for gold in the deep, which would be much less disturbance, because this is virgin territory as opposed to in Viscaria and Kiruna, which is a brownfield operation with industrial area, even dedicated dedicated for a mine. So this is really for the moment the environmental permit would be sort of less footprint in a way, because it's external enrichment that is in the concessions right now. We have 2 exploitation concessions, Svartliden and Eva. But obviously, since it's a greenfield, it could also take quite some time to have all the approvals there. So this is where we are directing our focus now during this autumn, and hopefully some core drilling activity next spring or winter or next spring. With that, I think it's last slide, so we say thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your presentation. I'll go right ahead with a few questions. You mentioned the long-term outlook for copper looks positive, but is it possible right now to say how high of a copper price will be needed for Viscaria to be profitable? Do you need the copper price to go up, or is it fine if the copper price stays at today's levels or even declines a bit?
Yeah, and what we have disclosed so far, obviously the mine plan and the ambition to go higher with the enrichment plant concentrator, increase from 2 million ton and upwards, that will cost more money, and it will obviously affect cash cost as well. But what we have stated beginning of this year was close to 4,000 as the cash cost, a bit lower with a mine in place around 2 million ton output. So this is what we can say today, actually. That is, of course, with the mine in operating. It's not to receive all the investment funding, so to speak. So obviously we need, we can't go down all the way to 4,000 or 5,000, but this is a very, very healthy copper price for sure, today's level.
So you mentioned a bit about your investment requirements. Can you speak a bit more? If you get your environmental permit, how much will you need to invest in the Viscaria mine before you could actually start operations?
Yes, this is what we are going through actually right now, together with the mine planner engineers and with the environmental team. I mean, all the equipment needed. And if, as I mentioned in the Q2 report, you can read about an increased ambition here. And this is what we are working with. So no new figures as of today. I'm sorry for that, Adrian.
Okay. Well, one major milestone that you had quite recently was reopening the Viscaria mine for the first time in 25 years to conduct some environmental studies. Could you say a bit more specifically what type of studies need to be conducted inside Viscaria, and how far along have you gotten in that process so far?
We have been able to take out some groundwater samples from inside the mine, and we are in the work of evaluating the result of that, and we also get the opportunity to have a look inside and see how the walls looked like, and so far we haven't seen anything that is it's bad or something. It looks very good, but of course we have reached the groundwater level, and we are not allowed today to pump out some water, but we need to do that to get deeper down in the mine and examine more of that. But today we haven't got any news on that.
Okay. And you also mentioned this news that you had another exploitation concession confirmed by the Swedish government for, I believe, the D zone of Viscaria. How much of Viscaria's total resources are covered by this concession? And also, as a follow-up, does this mean that you now have the concession rights for all the known resources inside Viscaria now?
Okay, thanks. That's a couple of questions. I will try to answer them. It's not the D zone. It's actually the northern extension of the A and B zones for the first. And it's called the exploitation concession number 7. And it will be valid for 25 years from the date of the mining inspector, which was 3 years ago, 2018. So this is plus 25 years from that. Yeah, so it's A and B zone there, and approximately 15% of the total, the sum of the exploitation concessions 3, 4, and 7. So to speak, the portfolio of the Viscaria concessions. And we will have to revert with that specific question on the measured. That was the question. How much of the measured?
Yeah, of the total measured, or even the indicated and inferred resources.
Yeah, I would say most of these 240,000 tons is from the A zone. So, and it's drilled like I showed here, several hundred kilometers, like a pincushion, en nåldyna in Swedish. It's drilled everywhere. So with today's measures, I mean, obviously we can convert quite a bit of this to reserves, in my view, but it hasn't been done by Sunstone. So we'll see. Time will tell. But it's looking very, very good for the first 9 years, the life of mine that we are sort of going for here.
Okay. We have about 1 more minute, so I'll round off with what I think is the $1 million question. You have a target of submitting this permit application by the end of the year. Are you still comfortable about that timeline?
We say by the upcoming winter. I mean, then if it's going to be November or February, March, it doesn't really matter as long as it's state of the art. That's our view. We are collecting all the water samples, so hopefully we'll not need another spring or summer if we put it like that. But it's a heavy material to compile, and this is done right now.
Yeah. With that being said, I'd like to thank you so much for your time, and I'll leave it up to you for some final remarks if you want to say anything.
That's fine for me.
Okay, we thank you so much for
Thank you.
listening to this exciting opportunity.